Okay. Arsalan, I hate to do this to you, but we're gonna have to start off with your question, bud. One more time. I think I don't. Like, okay, first of all, like we don't have a lot to cover left in the surah, so I don't think this is gonna be a particularly long class. And I think I'm starting to catch it because of the weather change. So I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to keep going unless I get a second win. Because inshallah. Sorry, but just go ahead. Your question was. Okay, okay. Coming with an open look. Yes, yes. So I think when you had first asked the question, that's when I said that, hey, it's actually about to come up right now in the next following verses. And it does. Okay, just based on, I was giving it some thought. I read a couple of the tafasir on this just opening topic, and I think what I understood is that أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى, ayah 5 and 6. As for the one who deems himself self-sufficient, أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى, to him you keep directing your full attention. So the sadda is like the echo, where like where you talk to it and it just comes back to you. You keep going back and forth with it. So I think what the ayah is showing is that your your da'wah is falling on deaf ears. So it's not that they're coming with the open heart. He just has them as an audience right now. And then وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا يَزَّكَّى, ayah number 7, that it's not your burden if they never end up purifying themselves. Because we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he constantly wanted to, just keep giving the da'wah. And فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ, that Allah Ta'ala says that he describes the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he was preaching to them that, it's like you're about to like destroy yourself. Like you're actually going to cause harm to your own self just because of the fact that you're like just keep putting so much effort into bringing people towards hidayah or presenting hidayah to people. So I think that's the first jawab, I guess. Like from the context, even from, I guess maybe you could say that from the majlis that they were in, that it didn't, that the assumption that we're having that they did have the open heart, it doesn't seem like that's the case. The second thing is Mufti Shafi rahimahullah, he brings up quite a few different points where he mentions that, like we said, that this itab is just to correct the ijtihad of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So in this situation, he was making a choice, he was just making like a reasoning that he was weighing the options and he ended up making a choice. So now also Allah Ta'ala, he corrects this ijtihad of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this is Mufti Shafi saying this, that he thought that if a Muslim were to adopt a speech style that is not in keeping with the etiquettes of a gathering, then he needs to be reprimanded. So he thought that by turning away from these people who he was addressing, and although, okay, let's say it's not going so well or whatnot, it would be inappropriate for me to just turn away from them, and that makes sense. But Allah Taala is saying that no, you should have done that. Okay, so and then he also adds that that is why he turned his face from Abdullah ibn Maktoum radiallahu an. Secondly, is that like I think we had mentioned this as well, that disbelief, kufr, and shirk and polytheism are definitely the most severe sins. So it should take priority to try to eradicate these sins as opposed to maybe addressing like a secondary issue that a sahabi is already asking. So those are a couple of like the reasons that maybe Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam decided to keep turning to them. But Allah Ta'ala is saying that no, rather this what does he say? He says that rather he's showing to him, Allah Ta'ala explaining to him that educating a genuine seeker will most certainly benefit him. How will it most certainly benefit him? Through the Allah Ta'ala says that وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى أَوْ يَذَّكَّرُ فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى. Either he's going to reach purification by he's either going to be able to reform himself, become a lot more, and that this advice and being able to speak and spend time with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will, give him a huge boost in his spirituality and in his iman, or it's something that he could maybe it won't benefit him now, but down the line it will end up benefiting him. So then he says that that's so a genuine Muslim, especially like this is in Makkah, right? This is someone who's from the early acceptors of Islam, someone who actually I don't think I mentioned this, but Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he was the cousin of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. So they had like a relationship as well, like a familial relationship between between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abdullah ibn Maktoum. So this like really strong Sahabi. Additionally, even on top of that, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he was later on like when Rasulullah, because he was blind, of course, he wasn't able to participate in battles. So then what would happen is that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would appoint him to be like the muaddin, or like he would like have him as like the Amir of Medina, pretty much. So that's the high status that this Sahabi has. So Allah Ta'ala is saying that no, this individual who would most definitely benefit from your company by being able to speak to you from your sohbat, then those are the only two options that he has. Either he just takes a huge jump in his iman and his spirituality, or it's something that could help him later on. So then the doubtful thing, which is speaking to these disbelievers who most likely, I mean, just judging based on the zahir, based on the apparent of the gathering, it's not looking too good with the way that this conversation is going. You should have preferred speaking to them. Sorry, you should have preferred speaking to the Sahabi. I hope that makes sense. Inshallah. Dude, man, you had me racking my head over this thing, bro. I was like, yeah, no, no. I think I probably, I think that it's just the assumption that I kind of, that I had as well. It's just like that it looked like they were receptive to the da'wah. But أما من استغنى, I even have it in my Quran tarjuma notes that I think Mullah Yusuf probably said that. That's why I wrote it. He says, عن دعوة الله, that they are turning out, that they just feel like they don't need this da'wah towards hidayat and towards like deen and Quran and to wahi and all that. Okay. Yeah. One interesting, okay, can we move on? Yeah, we're good. Okay. One interesting thing was that, let me just ask you guys, is that there's a lot of literature actually written on the tanasub of different ayat and the surahs, like, the tanasub being like the connection between, certain sets of ayat and the ones after them. Like, for example, in Surah Nazi'at, we said that there's Orientalists and people who say that this surah is all over the place. There's no connection between any of it. And then we showed that that's not the case, that there is a lot of imagery back and forth, that the words play off each other. It's a lot of literary symmetry going on between the entire surah. And so a question that I had for you all is that what do you guys think is the connection between this Surah Abasa, the beginning of Surah Abasa, which talks about a blind Sahabi coming to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he's giving da'wah? That's how the Surah starts, at least. And what's the connection with the Surah Nazi'at? The Surah Nazi'at talks about Qiyamah at the end, right? Yeah, you can. I'm specifying this beginning part of Surah Abasa as well as the end part of Naziat, because you could argue that what's it called? Abasa eventually at the end of the surah, as we'll get to today, inshallah, it talks about the sifat and the ahwal of qiyamah, the terrors on the day of judgment, and then that's also discussed in Surah Naziat as well. So there's a book actually called Nazm al-Durar fi Tanasubi Ayati wa Suwar. I believe that's what the full name is, Nazm al-Durar. And he says that when he's talking about Surah Abasa, actually, any of you guys have any guesses, or could I go forward? He says that this beginning part is actually the sharh of Innama, and Surah Nazi'at. Where is it at? إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها, the second to last ayah. إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها. Allah Ta'ala says that you are إنما for hasr, right? It gives only. You are only a warner. أنذر ينذر إنذار, to warn. منذر من يخشاها, the one who fears it. من يخشاها. And then what do we see here? What have we been discussing this whole time? What's this stark quality difference between this al-a'ma, this blind sahabi, and the Quraysh, these leaders of Quraysh that were in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The stark quality is that Allah Ta'ala highlights it again here is that فأما من جاءك يسعى وهو يخشى. That's the individual that has a khashya that you should be turning your attention towards. So that could also be another response to that dilemma that we were having. Another thing that I thought of that, I mean, I didn't read this anywhere, but perhaps, maybe it could work, is that in Surah Naba we talk about Yawm al-Fasl. And now, and then after that, Allah Ta'ala talks about the people of Jahannam. He says that لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا, and then later on he says إِنَّ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ مَفَازًا. That Allah Ta'ala, he talks about the day of judgment, and then after that it's going to be either one of two camps. You have the muttaqeen, and then you have the طاغين. And then what does Allah Ta'ala do in Surah Nazi'at? He discusses one of the worst people of Tughyan. He talks about Fir'aun, right? And now what's happening in Surah Abasa, you get the other side of the muttaqeen, which is essentially the people who have khashya, which is an example here of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, the best example of people that have the khashya of Allah Ta'ala in their hearts. The greatest people after the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam, the greatest people after the prophets. So that's just another small little possible connection that I had thought of. So the Yawm al-Fasl is what? It's between Tughyan and Khashya. So we want to be more like the Sahabas and not fall into not have the sifat of someone like Fir'aun. Okay, so just to review, I think we had quite a lot of side discussions with regards to the surah. I mean, we didn't even discuss the surah on the first day. Honestly, we talked about Hujjatul Hadith, and then we talked about the Ismatul Anbiya, the fact that all the Anbiya are ma'soom and they are protected from sins. Actually, it's impossible for them to sin. So then, just to review that, we said so. Actually, Sheikh Sabuni does a really good job at retranslating the Arabic and just giving a bit more detail. It's actually quite nice to read. He says, عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى أي كلح وجهه وقطبه وأعرض عنه كارها لأنه جاءه الأعمى يسأله عن أمور دينه. So then he says that that the face of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, like we said, Abasa is it's not necessarily where the entire face makes a certain reactionary motion. Rather, it's just where a person's their forehead or between their eyeballs kind of budges. A person kind of it has a stir, like a look, right? And then one thing actually I also didn't mention here is that وقال الصاوي إنما أتي بضمائر that it's coming with the third person. It's not عبست وتوليت يا رسول الله. It's عبس وتولى. It's maybe it probably happened to you guys in class, right? That the teacher, sometimes someone would just be doing something can't even describe it, right? So then the teachers at the end of class or the next day did we shouldn't, or there's a certain student that did XYZ. So then you are calling out the act, but you don't want to direct the blame towards anyone. To protect their sharaf, to protect their honor, to keep them. You don't want to belittle them or anything. So similarly, Allah Ta'ala is addressing what happened, but he's respecting the status of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, you could also say that perhaps if the teacher just continues to speak about this student in the third person, it could give the impression that the teacher has kind of given up on the student. That he's that student, he's does this, he does that, and he's just gonna keep he just just keep using the third person the student. That could also be could hurt the student as well. That just maybe you and I should talk privately, or something like that. So then what happens? That Allah Ta'ala switches back to the second person where he says وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ, the kaf, referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So another thing that I think I forgot to mention also was عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى is that this is a proof that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not author the Quran. There are also other ayat that kind of show that, because what, this is not like, at the end of the day, this is itab. This is Allah Ta'ala correcting Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So if Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had authored the Quran, either he did compose these ayat, and then he would have a grudge against Abdullah ibn Maktoum, correct? But what do we see in the hadith is that whenever, like years later, on any occasion after this ayah, whenever Abdullah ibn Maktoum would like come to the majlis and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would see him, what would he say? He would say, he would, like, let's say they were just sitting on the floor, then he would يَبْسُطُ لَهُ رِدَاءَهُ, that he would take his garment and he would lay it out for him. So he has like a dastarkhan, like a chadar to sit on. And then he would say, where is it at? مَرْحَبًا بِمَنْ عَاتَبَنِي فِيهِ رَبِّي. Welcome to the individual that my Lord called me out on. So that's the first option. Either Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did author this Quran, but then the consequence of that is that he should have a grudge against this individual because he was because of this the context of the meaning of these verses. But we see that's not the case. So that's not obviously that's not what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not author these exact words. That, or you could say that the blame should have if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did author the Quran, then what would happen was that he would have just said that instead of calling himself out, he would just put the blame completely on Abdullah ibn Maktoum. But obviously that's not the case either. So we see that this is definitely not the authorship of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وما يدريك لعله يزكى، أي وما يعلمك ويخبرك يا محمد لعل هذا الأعمى الذي عبست في وجهه يتطهر من ذنوبه بما يتلقاه عنك من العلم والمعرفة. How do you know that what you would have taught him and informed him of, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that perhaps this blind individual that you frowned away from, that he would have purified himself from sins, and that he would have purified himself from sins due to this knowledge that he acquired from you. أو يذكر فتنفعه ذكرى أو يتعظ بما يسمع فتنفعه موعظتك. That perhaps this reminder that you gave him, just this advice that you gave him, would have benefit him. أما من استغنى عن الله وعن الإيمان بماله ومن that these individuals who deem themselves that they felt like they didn't need this deen, they felt like they didn't need iman, they felt like they didn't need Allah Ta'ala. فأنت له تصدى فأنت تتعرض له وتصغى, that you just keep coming back to them and turning your attention towards them, and that you have, like, you're just so obsessed with making sure that you get your message across to them. وما عليك ألا يزكى ولا حرج عليك ألا يتطهر من دنس الكفر والعصيان. It's not your responsibility to completely, that you have to wait for that the objective, which is that they accept shahada, that they free themselves from kufr, from tughyan, from isyan, from disobedience to Allah. Rather, إنما عليك البلاغ, your responsibility is to properly and effectively communicate the message. That's your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to, like, hold their hand and to walk them through the line of hidayat. Rather, you just have to give them the message. Of course, Allah Ta'ala not just saying that, just he's not just saying go up to them, say I believe in God, and just dip. That's not what's happening. He's saying that make your effort, do your due diligence, do what you have to do. But that if you're doing everything you can and they're still not accepting, then that's not on you. وأما من جاءك يسعى وأما من جاءك يسرع ويمشي في طلب العلم. And the one who's coming to you, he has the talab of ilm, and he seeking this khair, this goodness, وهو يخشى وهو يخاف الله تعالى ويتقي محارمه, and that he fears Allah Ta'ala and he stays away from those things that Allah Ta'ala has prohibited. فأنت عنه تلهى, that you're busy, you're engaged in something else, and you're not focusing your attention towards him, and you're focusing on these رؤساء الكفر والضلال, that you're focusing on these leaders of kufr and dalala. كلا, never again do this. كلا is referring to لا تفعل هذا بعد ذلك اليوم. لا تفعل بعد اليوم مثل ذلك. That don't do anything like this after this this reminder that we're giving you now. So فمن شاء ذكره فمن شاء من عباد الله اتعظ بالقرآن واستفاد من إرشادته. So then it's فمن شاء ذكره, that the person can, whoever so wishes, they can remember this advice that we have given. في صحف مكرمة وهو في صحف مكرمة عند الله, that this Quran, it is in um, protected and honored pages with Allah Ta'ala, مرفوعة مطهرة عالية القدر والمكان عالية القدر والمكانة منزهة عن أيدي الشياطين, that this Quran is of course of a high status, it's protected from the hands of the shayateen, وعن كل دنس ونقصان, and that it hasn't been tampered with, بأيدي سفرة بأيدي الملائكة جعلهم الله سفراء بينه وبين رسله, that Allah Ta'ala has put this in the hands of these certain angels who are the like the intermediaries, I guess, like the middleman between Allah Ta'ala and His messengers. كرام بررة مكرمين معظمين عند الله, that these angels are respected and noble in the sight of Allah Ta'ala. أتقياء صلحاء, that they're pious, they're righteous. What does Allah Ta'ala say about the angels? لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون, that they do not disobey Allah Ta'ala in what He has commanded them, and they do what they're told to do. The question comes up here is that which creation of Allah Ta'ala is better, the angels or the prophets? Any guesses? I forgot where I read this. So this might have been a shit. Go ahead. Yeah, I believe that's what he says as well. He just says that it is the prophets due to actually I'll just probably just I can send screenshots of the book, inshallah. Like I said, I don't wanna I definitely don't want to go overtime like I did last. If that ever happens again, please just 9 o'clock, just yell out stop. Okay, do not let me go overtime. That's I don't want to do that to y'all. Okay, again, I'm very very sorry about that, guys. Yeah. So he says that it's the prophets, and and then he gives a couple of dalail and as to what the reasons are. If anyone has any questions regarding that, we can. Is that do I have it open? Yeah. I have my phone leaning against the laptop, so I need to move it around every now and then. Try to figure out. Let's see. Okay, while that's searching, I'll just keep going. Where were we at? قتل الإنسان ما أكفره. Okay, so now what have we discussed so far? We discussed the story. Then we discussed that it is the khashya that drives an individual towards the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala, towards remembrance of Allah Ta'ala, towards, gaining طلب العلم and طلب الخير. And the best way to do this is, of course, that is through the Quran. That's what Abdullah bin Maktoum was coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for. He says, "علمني بما علمك Allah." Please teach me what Allah Ta'ala has taught you, i.e., the Quran. So then Allah Ta'ala talks about the quality of the Quran in its makana, its station, how amazing it is. And then what does Allah Ta'ala say? قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَهُ, that doomed is man, cursed is man, or the disbelieving man specifically. Of course, not the Muslim, because of ma akfara, that disbelieving man, he's being ungrateful of this blessing of Quran. That he's being ungrateful of this blessing of I guess this is where like the new stuff starts. I guess the rest of what we did before was a review. That he's being ungrateful for this blessing of the Quran has been given to him, and this source of hidayah that he has. من أي شيء خلق, that من أي شيء خلق الله هذا الكافر حتى يتكبر على ربي, that what thing has this human being been made of, that this disbeliever has been made of, that he feels like he has the audacity to have arrogance in front of his Lord. ثم وضح ذلك, then Allah Ta'ala clarifies, and فقال من نطفة خلقه فقدر, that Allah Ta'ala created him from a sperm drop. He خلقه فقدر, I believe we mentioned this before, that this is either referring to the taqdeer, or فقدره, that Allah Ta'ala portioned him out, that Allah Ta'ala gave him his 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 legs, that he portioned out the body while still in the womb, and no deformities and things like that for most individuals. That this is what Allah Ta'ala does. From this, small drop of sperm. ثم السبيل يسره ثم سهل له طريق الخروج من بطن أمه, that Allah Ta'ala allows that this child pass through this small cavity from a woman. قال الحسن البصري كيف يتكبر من خرج من سبيل البول مرتين, that Hassan al-Basri says that how can an individual who has come from two private parts have kibr in front of their Lord, subhanAllah. ثم أماته فأقبره. So Allah Ta'ala is describing blessings that He has given insan, that He has portioned him correctly, that He has first of all created him, portioned him correctly, allowed like an easy birth. Then ثم أماته فأقبره. This is interesting that Allah Ta'ala is counting the blessings, Quran and life and all these things. Then He says ثم أماته فأقبره, that we granted him death and we granted him like to be buried and allowed him to be buried and things. So now the question comes that this is you guys are probably aware of this narration that tuhfatul mu'min al maut, right? That the gift of the believer is death. There's actually another narration very similar to this. I had looked it up on my phone, so I think my camera is going to turn off real quick. But inshallah, I'll just read it out to you guys. That وعن عبادة بن صامت رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, that Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم said that من أحب لقاء الله أحب الله لقاءه, that whosoever wishes to meet Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala wishes to meet him. ومن كره لقاء الله كره الله لقاءه, and uh, whoever detests to meet, whoever does not wish to meet Allah Ta'ala, then Allah Ta'ala does not wish to meet him. So now the question comes that I'm sure the same thought that arises in our minds as well when we hear this narration is that none of us want to die, do we? None of us no one's looking forward to that, right? So then this is, mashallah, the foresight of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. فقالت عائشة وبعض أزواجه إنا لنكره الموت, that they said this what we're thinking as well. They said that when Aisha, or one of his wives, said she did not want to die, he replied, that is not what I mean. ليس ذلك ولكن المؤمن إذا حضره الموت بشر برضوان الله وكرامته فليس شيء أحب إليه مما أمامه أحب لقاء الله وأحب الله لقاءه. And he says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that that's not what I mean. But when death comes to a believer, he is given glad tidings of Allah Ta'ala's good pleasure, that Allah Ta'ala's ridwan, and the fadl and these blessings that he's about to get. So there's nothing dearer to him than what lies before him, and he wishes to meet Allah Ta'ala, and Allah Ta'ala wishes to meet him. However, on the flip side, وَإِنَّ الْكَافِرِ إذا حضر بشر بعذاب الله وعقوبته فليس شيء أكره إليه مما أمامه فكره لقاء الله وكره الله لقاءه. But when a disbeliever approaches death, he is given tidings of Allah Ta'ala's punishment and the torture and these things that are waiting for him on the other side. So nothing is more disliked to him than to go forth and get what's in front of him, which is what he's going to get, yani. And he does not wish to meet Allah Ta'ala, and Allah Ta'ala does not wish to meet him. ثم أماته فأقبره. This is most definitely a blessing from Allah Ta'ala, that He grants us death, and He doesn't allow us to be, like you see in like nature documentaries on like the animal planet or something like that. You see like some small little birds eating like a huge dead lion or some huge dead animal, but Allah Ta'ala allows us to be buried in a dignified manner, as opposed to all other animals who are just left out to just die wherever they die. ثم إذا شاء أنشره. Sorry. ثم إذا شاء أنشره. What ayah number is that? That's ayah number 20. And when Allah Ta'ala wishes, He resurrects him. ثم حين يشاء الله إحياءه يحييه بعد موته للبعث والحساب والجزاء. Then Allah Ta'ala wishes to resurrect him, then He resurrects him after his death for the resurrection, for the judgment, and for his placement in Jannah or Jahannam. وإنما قال إذا شاء لأن وقت البعث غير معلوم لأحد. That إذا شاء, this is it's left but it's though it's not specified, right? Because no one knows the time that the Ba'ath will occur. فهو إلى مشيئة الله تعالى. It's completely dependent on the Mashi'ah, the will of Allah Ta'ala. متى شاء يحيي الخلق أحياهم. That whenever Allah, when that time comes that Allah Ta'ala wishes to resurrect the creation, that's when He's going to do it. كلا لما يقضي ما أمره. Line number 23. Most surely, no, indeed, man has not fulfilled what he has commanded him. He has not fulfilled ما أمر الله. لا, okay. That man has not fulfilled what Allah Ta'ala has commanded him. Okay, that's 8:35, and I said we're gonna go for 30 minutes. Yeah, right. قتل الإنسان what is it? فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه. Now, what are we going to be talking about? We talked about some certain ni'am about like life. Now, what Allah Ta'ala is going to do, like we believe this is also done in Surah An-Naba, is that Allah Ta'ala is going to call man to look at the creation around him. And you'll notice again, we're going to be talking about like the cosmos, the water cycle, how the water allows the plants and the vegetation to grow. So just like how Allah Ta'ala can do this to the earth, this dead earth, seasons come and go, and then the earth dies and it comes back to life. We're going to be seeing that now. These trees are going to start dying anytime soon. Then Allah Ta'ala brings it back to life. Then if Allah Ta'ala can do all this, then most, of course, Allah Ta'ala can bring back the dead as well. فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه فلينظر هذا الإنسان الجاحد. He should look very deeply and carefully. He should ponder over his food. أن صببنا الماء صبا. Where's that up? Then let man look at his own food. Actually, I don't think we translated this yet. If anyone wants to volunteer to go ahead and do this from eye number 24 until eye number 32. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم ولينعامكم. The riwayah of Hamza. Anyone want to go ahead and try that, or we could just I can go through it if that's fine. فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه. Ayah number 24. Then let man look to his own food. So again, what are we looking at? The reason that Allah Ta'ala is giving this command is to show that by looking at the world around us, we'll be able to prepare for the future. أَنَّا صَبَبَنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا. Indeed, it is we alone who have poured down the water in downpours. صَبًّا is the maf'ul mutlaq, right? So Allah Ta'ala is pouring down water. He's pouring it down really, really heavily. It's Allah Ta'ala alone who does this. ثم شققنا الأرض شقا. Then we alone have شققنا الأرض بخروج النبات منها شقا بديعا. That Allah Ta'ala is the one that allows for vegetation to be able to come out from the where you allow for the farmers, they have to do stuff to the soil in order for them to put their seeds in and stuff like that. That Allah Ta'ala is the one who made the earth in that manner so that it can be like farmed on, and so that the farmers can plant the seeds into the earth. فأنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا وزيتونا ونخلا وحدائق غلبا وفاكهة وأبا. So now what comes out from it? فأنبتنا فيها حبا, that we alone have caused to grow therein grain. حبا, grain. وعنبا وقضبا, and grapes and different foliage, herbage, different greens. وزيتونا ونخلا, and olives and date palms. Olives and date palms. زيتونا ونخلا. وحدائق غلبا. وحدائق غلبا, he says, وبساتين كثير الأشجار ملتفظة الأعضان. أغصان, sorry. That this like lush orchards and gardens of just trees on top of trees, and just as far as the eye can see, this Allah Ta'ala does this. فاكهة وأبا. Okay, there's a lot of kalam on this word abba. What is this word abba? That's okay. So it says that fakih are fruits like for people that we eat. Where abba is, I would think this is the mashhur as well. That abba is like the food for animals, and that's why. And then it pairs up nicely with mata'an lakum wa li an'amikum. That this is an enjoyment, a temporary enjoyment for you all, as well as for your an'am. How there's a lot of difference of opinion as to what abba is, and I'll mention to you guys what our beloved Mulana Yusuf mentioned to us in our third year. That abba is This is actually Mufidullah al-Haq's. This is something that he mentioned. I don't know if this is like Mufti Saab's like official, opinion, or it's just something he mentioned in passing, and then it's just like that random thing that becomes popular that because it's just so weird. I mean, so interesting. Sorry. Abba. He says that Abba is here. I'll go through the entire ta'leel. Where's it at? Where's it at? Oh no. فاكهة وأبا. Five. So in Urdu, we say um um and is mangoes. And mangoes are just a delicious fruit of what being mentioned in the Quran, I guess. So, meme is a Shafawi letter. It's a letter of the lips, just like ba. So meme became ba when you get a ba. That's where mangoes comes in. Man, I don't. Just that random, like, yeah. Go ahead. There were probably no mangoes in the Arabian Peninsula, yeah, but right? They were travelers, they were traders. Not, I don't think it'd be far fetched to say that it was like completely that they never heard of it ever. Like, man, don't man. I just mentioned it as a joke. Don't take it so. I can't have to what about. But like we said, yes, this ab is ما تأكله البهائم من that this is what the animals eat. Like we said, it makes sense. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. That this is a temporary enjoyment for you and your cattle. So it matches up quite nice with that. That's, I believe, he also quotes Imam Qurtubi over here as well. So that's your authority figure. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. أخرجنا ذلك وأنبتناه ليكون منفعة ومعاشا لكم أيها الناس ولأنعامكم. قال ابن كثير في هذه آية امتنان على العبادة وفيها استدلال بإحياء النبات من الأرض الهامدة على إحياء الأجسام بعدما كانت عظاما بالية وأوصالا متفرقة. That this is a blessing that Allah Ta'ala has given us in our cattle. And then Ibn Kathir, he says that, I believe I said this a little bit earlier, that, that this should be that the fact that Allah Ta'ala could change one thing to another and then back to one thing and another, and He could just do this repeatedly over and over and over and over again throughout the year, throughout this every year for the last thousands and thousands of years. It's a proof that if Allah Ta'ala could do that, then well, surely He can just, if He could bring this life from the earth out again and again and again, or, of course, to what we're talking about here, like vegetation and plants and stuff, then of course He could bring back the ajsam. He could bring back the bodies, the dead bodies, even if they're spread far and wide, even if they've been disintegrated to dust, even if there's nothing left of them, Allah Ta'ala is still capable of doing that. إذا جاءت الصاخة. متاع we had translated as a temporary enjoyment. Why the temporary? فإذا جاءت الصاخة. Same thing like متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى. It's temporary because one day it's going to end. فإذا جاءت الصاخة. صاخة فإذا جاءت صيحة القيامة التي تسخ الآذان حتى تكاد تصمها. That this is like a deafening blow, a deafening screech, a scream, a deafening blast. Something that just is so loud that your ears will literally not be able to take it. When this deafening blast comes. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه. أي في ذلك يوم الرهيب. On that terrifying day, every individual he'll be running away. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه. On that day, that an individual will be running away from his brother, from his siblings, وأمه وأبيه, from his mom and dad, وصاحبته, وصاحبة, his wife, and his وبني, his children, his spouse and his children. So you see, the order is like a person. It's like from it's like from I don't want to say least loved because we have a lot of love for our siblings, mashallah. A person doesn't, they care about their parents more than their siblings, and they care about especially like the people of their own household that they have to take care of is kind of supersedes that as well. So that's the order that was mentioned. Like pairings, I'm sure most people would agree that over ab. I mean, that's the hadith that comes as well, right? But it's like in groups that's coming. That's why it's separate ayahs as well. If that makes sense. Um, لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغني. So when the deafening blast of the resurrection comes, on that day a man shall flee from his own brother, his mother and his father, his wife and his children. For each one of okay, لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغني. For each one of them on that day shall have a greater matter sufficient to overwhelm him. لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ, that for every single individual from amongst them, يَوْمَئِذٍ, on that day, شَأْنٌ يُغْنِي, it will be a matter that he's more focused on. He's not even worried about them. يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ, that he's, because you know what's going to happen on the day of judgment. Everyone's going to be trying to, go around to their people, to the people that they're close with. So, which is these individuals, أخي, ab, صاحبة, the abna, that they're gonna try to go to them and be like, yo, please just let me borrow some good deeds from you, and they're not gonna want to give it to them, and they're gonna try to take it from them, and it's just gonna be absolute chaos, and no one's gonna care about the fact that these individuals are the most beloved to us on this planet Earth, that we're not going to care a single bit about them on the day of judgment. Why? Because we're just nafsi, nafsi, nafsi. We're just gonna be carried about our own selves. It breaks my heart. Sometimes I have to, like, whenever my my aunts, or like even my mom or someone like that, they're always just like, or not just, I mean, or like Islam anything, but just like, they mashallah, they have a lot of qadr for like hifz al-Quran. So they say that, you're allowed to have the shafa'ah on the day of judgment and stuff like that. Inshallah, we myself and all the other huffaz get this fadila and this honor of being able to perform the shafa'ah. But this always, they always say stuff like, I'll grab onto the, you don't even turn back and look. Just make sure you're holding on to like my hand or like my sari, like the little orny thingy. I'm just like, yo, like, how am I supposed to say that to them? يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه. Hans isn't even on the list. You know what I'm saying? لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغني. So they're gonna be involved. Every single individual on that day, شأن يغني. He has a matter that's gonna overtake him. He's gonna be much more involved in. يعني in his own self. He's gonna be focused on his own self. وجوه يومئذ مسفرة. Faces on that day shining. وجوه يومئذ, some faces on that day, مسفرة, shall be shining, radiant. Okay? وجوه في ذلك اليوم مضيئة مشرقة, that they'll be bright and radiant, out of happiness and success. ضاحكة مستبشرة, that they will be laughing, rejoicing at the glad tidings of paradise. ضاحكة from ضحك, from laughing. مستبشرة from the Ashinara, that they'll just be very, very happy over these blessings that Allah Ta'ala, these constant blessings that Allah Ta'ala will be providing them with. وَوُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَلَيْهَا غَبَرَةٌ, and there will be faces on that day that have upon them dust. وَوُجُوهٌ فِي ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ عَلَيْهَا غُبَارٌ وَدُخَانٌ, they'll be dusty and dirty from smoke and from the fire. تَرْهَقُهَا قَتَرٌ, grime overspreads them. That تغشاها وتعلوها ظلمة وسواد, that there's this blackness and heaviness that overtakes them completely. أولئك هم الكفرة الفجرة. Who are these individuals? أي أولئك الموصوفون بسواد الوجوه, that these individuals who have been attributed and have been characterized with black faces, of darkened faces. هم الجامعون بين الكفر والفجور. These are the people that combine between disbelief and disobedience. قال الصاوي, جمع الله تعالى إلى سواد وجوههم الغبرة كما جمع الكفر إلى الفجور. Yeah. So we ask that Allah Ta'ala protect us from from having this ghubar on our face, that He make us from the dahikatul mustabashira, and that He allow us to free ourselves from any of these qualities of these kufar that were mentioned in the beginning. There's some of them. Abbas radiallahu anh, he's also mentioned to have been a part of that group. He just didn't accept Islam at that time, but he did accept later on. That the start quality there was that they turned away from the tadhkirah, the Quran, that they didn't pay attention to the remembrance. So we ask that Allah Ta'ala make us from those individuals who pay heed to the Quran, in both in its reading and in its ma'na and in its implementation. And He save us from being He save us from being those people that turn away from it. Any questions?
I had a question on some of the Arabic root letters for some of these. I was trying to look them up, but I was unable to find it. For example, the word talaha. What are the root letters there? I looked up lahaya, but I could not. Nothing was coming up.
and laha, yeah. And then probably see if my third year self was studious enough to look up these words. Laha. Oh, it says to seek a distraction. I didn't. You said which? What did you look up? Lam, ha, and
Yeah.
oh no, no, this is lam, ha. Um, how did we? Do you remember how we translated it? What ayah number is that?
9.
Nine. That's what? أنت عنه تنهى تتنهى. Um, my mind is not working right now. I'm sorry. Just give me one sec. Yeah, I'll just pause the recording right now. Save myself any embarrassment.